Welcome, everyone. My name is Kim Stalnaker. I am a history teacher at a DC public school called McKinley Technology High School. I teach both world history and advanced placement human geography. Today, I really want to talk about when you activate curiosity in the classroom, it makes for meaning of the content and it really helps learning stick. So, the way that this really came home to me was when I participated in a teacher program called Teachers for Global Classrooms. This is an amazing program. I highly recommend you apply. In this program, we spent a year learning all about global education, and then it culminated in a 3-week trip to another country. In my case, lucky me, it was India. And we went there to really learn in depth about the educational system of India. So we looked at public schools, government schools, private schools. We observed lessons, we taught lessons, we observed teacher professional development, and we also led teacher professional development. And all of these things prepared me for teaching advanced placement human geography as well as world history because it really activated my curiosity. There is one essential knowledge that I'm required to teach for human geography. I'm just going to read it to you. It is regional patterns of language, religion, and ethnicity contribute to a sense of place, enhance placemaking, and shape the global cultural landscape. I really thought that I was well qualified to teach not only this essential knowledge, but all of the content for human geography. I have a master's degree in international studies. It has always been my passion, but it wasn't really until my curiosity was activated in India that I really understood this essential knowledge on a deeper way. Basically, everywhere we went, I saw evidence of religious worship. I saw it in the taxi cab. I saw it at the corner store. I saw it in people's homes, as well as everywhere you go, there are temples where people are worshiping. And so that really deepened for me the understanding of how the religion impacts the cultural landscape. In addition, I really felt, wow, this is a truly multicultural society. Students speak one language at home. They learn several other languages in school. When they're working with the government or a government official, they need yet another language. So this trip really helped me be a better teacher, particularly in this particular essential knowledge question. And that activation of my curiosity made meaning of the content and really helped learning stick for me and helped me do a better job teaching. So, while we cannot take our students on all these trips, I wish we could. I think we should fund such things because it really is an amazing experience. There are other ways that we can activate student curiosity in the classroom. The 3 methods that I'm going to tell you about today, I got all from the book Making Thinking Visible. So the first strategy is a see, think, and wonder strategy. This is a strategy that I usually use at the beginning of a unit to activate student curiosity about what we're about to study. And usually you want to choose images or documents or quotes that are very provocative, that create a lot of questions for you, because that means it's going to create a lot of questions for your students. So first you have them just look at the image or document and describe what they see. Then you have them write a statement about what do they think is happening. And finally, you have them write a question about what do they wonder is going on in this image. So for example, for my Cold War unit for world history, I picked 3 images and quotes that I thought really encapsulated the core content and main points of that unit. So the first one was an image, a photograph of students hiding under their desks. The second one is a quote from Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev, who's basically saying, America, as we pass you by, we will wave. And then the last one is an image of young men in Berlin with sledgehammers chipping at the Berlin Wall. So when you have students look at these images and these quotes, it's really activating their curiosity. And it's best if you can have them work with a partner. If you're doing this virtually, you can have them do it in a chat or a discussion board and create these see, think, and wonders. One possible pitfall is that students can do this in a way that really doesn't activate their critical thinking. So for example, if you're talking about that first image of the children under the desk, a student might say, I see children under a desk, so now I think they must be hiding and I wonder why, right? That's not really getting to the depth that you want. So a way to get around this is either to provide an example, to go over an example together. I always do that the first time I'm using See, Think, and Wonder, or to give them an essential question that they need to think about when they write that See, Think, and Wonder. So for example, in the Cold War unit, you might have them think about the question, what are the effects of power struggles among nations, right? And as the students think about that question, they might say, I see children under school desks, which makes me think the power struggles among nations is creating danger. And so now I wonder, what are they preparing for? So this gets at the more critical thinking. What you can do then once students have completed the See, Think, Wonder is a couple different things. You can have them really select the wonder that creates the most questions for them and really flesh out that question and maybe make that one of your essential questions for the course. Another thing that you can do that I really like to do is you teach the entire unit, hold on to all those wonder questions, and then when you come to the end of the unit, pull out those wonder questions again and have students answer them. This gives them such a sense of accomplishment because they have asked all these questions at the beginning of the unit, things they didn't really know or understand, and now they can answer them with evidence in detail because of everything they have learned in that unit. So that is a great way to spark their curiosity, really make meaning, and help learning stick. So a second strategy that I really like, also from Making Thinking Visible, is called a chalk talk. All right, we don't use chalk anymore. I think most of us don't. But it's the idea of responding to prompts or questions on chart paper. If you're doing this virtually, you can put up multiple questions in a discussion board that students have to respond to a certain number. So the way that this works is you give students a question or a statement. They can write whether they agree or disagree. They can write whether they agree or disagree with what another student has written. They can ask a question. They can answer another student's question. They can ask another question about what someone else has said. So this gets the students interacting with each other, and it really allows every student to have a voice without having to voice that in front of all of their peers. And if you're doing this virtually, you can even put students in separate groups so that they're not necessarily interacting with the entire class, but working on these questions with their small group. So for example, in my AP Human Geography class, when we're studying population, I like to pick some really provocative statements for students to respond to. So let me just give you a few examples. Overpopulation is a growing problem. Population control policies are necessary for a healthy planet. There aren't enough resources to sustain our growing planet. Now, these are questions that demographers, that geographers are thinking about, and that's what level you want your students on, right? And also, these are questions that have multiple responses. So if you take, for example, there aren't enough resources to sustain our growing planet, some students might argue that's true. Our population is over 7 billion. We don't have enough food and water to sustain everyone. Another student might say, actually, the issue is not that we don't have enough resources, it's that we're not sharing them equally. That countries like the United States are using a large number of resources, and countries that have much larger populations, like Indonesia or India, are using many fewer resources, and that is the issue. So that gets the students really thinking and discussing these big questions. And what I like to do to up the rigor is I ask students at the end, I want you to select one question that you were really interested in, and you're going to write about that one. And you're going to reflect on it. Now, usually this I don't do at the very beginning of the lesson. I don't do this chalk talk at the beginning of the lesson, but I do it towards the end of the lesson after students have watched videos, read documents and articles, right? So they come informed and have informed opinions about what they're talking about. So that's another great way to really spark their curiosity, get them thinking about these issues that people around the world are thinking about, and talk to their peers about it. Final and last strategy is called tug of war. Now, I personally think it should be called tug for truth, because you're really grappling with an issue and tugging on which side of the issue your evidence falls on. So again, first you want students reading primary and secondary documents. You want them collecting evidence. And then you want to have a line of continuum where on one side you have the one extreme and the other, and then they put their evidence on sticky notes and place it on one side or other of the continuum or somewhere in between. So let's say you're in world history, you're studying the Aztec and the Incas, and you want the students to look at the question about whether isolation has either accelerated or limited the downfall of these civilizations. And you have them read articles, look at primary documents, collect evidence. Then with a partner, with a group, or virtually in a discussion board again, you have students put that on the line of continuum, and they can argue and discuss about it, right? Another way to kind of up the rigor of this is once one group is done, have the students rotate with a different colored sticky note or maybe a different color that they're typing in, and write responses or questions like, why did you put that here? Because I think that for this reason, it might be better on the other side. And that really gets the discussion going. And then you can have students go back and move their sticky notes based on the feedback that they got or not. Then to really make this a rigorous activity, you give students that claim. Did isolation accelerate or limit the downfall of these civilizations? And you have them write a claim to that question using all the thought that they went through to come up with a claim to that response. And now they also have those sticky notes, they have their evidence to go through. So these are 3 really great strategies. I've had a lot of success with all of them. I've used them multiple times in the classroom. And all these 3 strategies activate student curiosity. And when you activate that curiosity, you make meaning and you help learning stick. So good luck. I know that you can do it just as well.